All right, good evening again. I always see people have come on. I'm sitting here looking at stuff. All right, I'm not gonna be on long. I haven't eaten much today. I have been hearing like watermelon. I've been eating a lot of watermelon lately, and I don't normally. I haven't in years, and I keep hearing watermelon, watermelon. Watermelon. So I don't have a juicer. I used to have a champion juicer years ago, which was one of the top of the line juicers. It was held to clean, but I had the juicer. Okay, you can get out of my ear. Okay, that doesn't work for you, so you can stop. Okay. So anyway, I do have a blender, but instead of juice, I used to juice a lot. I used to juice a lot when I was younger. I had been vegan. I had eaten a raw diet. Did that a few times in my life, and I don't do any of that anymore. I mean, I'm not opposed to eating a raw meal, but I was a raw. I don't know. What could I say that I was officially a raw foodie? Because I did it one time when I was in the Hebrew community. I was with the man I married. We did it for, I don't know. I can't remember how many weeks we did it for, but we did it for a while. And then, of course, years later, I had done it again for a while. But so I did it 3 times. Damn, I forgot I did it 3 times. But anyway, I don't do any of that anymore. I do eat meat. I'm not vegan anymore. I had created a series of, not a series, but created a recipe book. I had at one time was making all kinds of salads and stuff that I would create, and I catered a few times with some of my creations. But anyway, I did create a recipe book, like I stated, and juiced a lot. I knew this girl from the Hebrew community that I was with, and she used to make a lot of vegan dishes. I was thinking about her recently. And when she left, she was still making. She would get all these grants and whatnot, so she could educate people about vegan food and vegan eating. And you go to her house, she would have boxes and boxes of bananas and huge bags of carrots and whatnot. You used to be able to go to the West Side Market here in Cleveland to the produce. And I used to go there and back then when I was really into it and get huge bag, huge bag of carrots to juice and all that good stuff. You juice the carrot, and then you could take the pulp. This is what I learned from the Hebrew community. You take the pulp, and you could make a salad, like a tuna type salad, But of course, if you do it, you want to make sure to peel, get a peeler and peel the outside, because I don't know, or scrub the hell out of it to get that dirt and stuff up off of the outside of the carrot before you make that carrot salad. The lady who raised me, well, I showed her all this stuff too. She just went ballistic. She would take all the pulp from all the juices that she would make and make soups and all, which I really didn't care for, but it wasn't nasty. It was just all that pulpy stuff, But anyway, and you know what? I did a video. What am I talking about? I did a video on this channel way back where I showed the carrot salad that I made. I forgot all about that. I made the soy butter, because we would use soy butter instead. Of course, we didn't use mayonnaise. Because they made they made a lot of things here in the States from scratch. When I went to Israel, in the community in Israel, they had to make everything from scratch. But so you can use veganaise if you're vegan. You use veganaise, things like that. You can make a carrot salad. You know what I'm saying? That way you're not, wasting the pulp. You can use it for compost, and various other things. I have been doing that for years. It was not new to me. First time I was a vegetarian, I was a student at Howard. I think it was maybe my senior year. I was a vegetarian. So my energy's kind of low because I haven't eaten a lot today, like I said. But anyway, I was a vegetarian then. That was the first time I was a vegetarian. And over the years, learned more and more about food and whatnot, and eventually became vegan. I was doing this at a time, I was in my 20s, early 20s. People used to laugh at me. They laughed at me. They scoffed at me. They would say things, oh, you need to eat regular food. Okay. Then I became a member of the Hebrew community, learned all the more. But still people who were not a part. These are people that I knew. They laughed at me. They scoffed at me. When it became popular, okay, on the internet. Because things were on the internet, you know how that goes. And more people learn about it. More and more people would learn the health benefits and whatnot. Some of these same people who laughed at me and scoffed at me and mocked me began this diet change and eating, the way that I had been since I was like in my early 20s, so 30 something years ago. And it's so funny how people will do that to you and they will never once, say anything to you or attribute any of the knowledge that they obtain from you, or say, Nikki, look what I started doing. Girl, you was doing this however many years ago. They never will. Same people who laughed at me, same people who mocked me. And some would even have the nerve to try to say, look at this, like what I'm doing here, as though they're trying to teach me something that I had been doing for years. And that can be said of quite a few things in my life. They would scoff and laugh and question me and call me names and you're lost and you're a witch and you're weird and say all these terrible things about me behind my back. And then when it becomes a popular through TikTok or whatever the fuck on the internet, and they go do it. It's as though they had never heard of it ever before in their fucking life until TikTok. That's how you know it would treat people like me who are of the divine nature. You don't want to say that I knew this young woman here or this lady here. She did this so long ago. She was doing this years ago. I mean, I learned from others myself. But I was doing it at a time when it was not a popular thing. When hell, I don't know, did we have? Yeah, we had the internet then. Did we? Yeah, we had the internet then. But it still wasn't a popular thing. It was just among certain communities, you know. Man, you know how these things become popular. And then they see you, someone who's like, well, I did that like 30 years ago. But some people before they were even born, and for some people when they were babies. I said that one time to a young woman about this girl who, I don't know, I can't remember what we were talking about. And I said, well, I was doing that when she was a baby. You know, she was wet behind the ears. And the young woman I said that to, she looked at me and rolled her eyes. Well, I don't know why you're mad. It's the fucking truth. You know, you're not teaching me anything. You know, I was doing that already. But someone did teach me. I'm not saying that I came out the womb knowing everything. Absolutely not. You know, someone did teach me. I was taught by others. You know, um, it's just jealous energy. Even like the way I wear my hair. I remember when I shown pictures of me with my hair short like this when I was in college, early 90s. Damn sure wasn't no thing in Cleveland, Ohio, but I went to an HBCU and there were only like, I can only remember like about three or four girls walking on campus with their hair like this. So I was walking the streets of DC. I think I was on my way to work. I passed this woman. I mean, this woman was fucking gorgeous, okay? She was older. Well, she probably was like in her 30s at the time. She was dark. She was very dark skinned. She had a small frame up top, but from the waist down, she was a little thicker. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful woman. And she had the sharpest haircut. That shit was so fucking, I mean, like it was natural. It was not like a round fro. It was a nice cut. I can't remember, but it was close. And we got to talking. Come to find out, this woman had been featured. Well, I don't know about featured, but there was a picture of her in Essence magazine. I used to get all Essence magazines back then, every fucking month, okay? And I looked at her from the side and I said, wait a minute, you look familiar. She said, well, you might have saw me at Essence. I said, that's you. I have your picture. You know what I'm saying? Because her cut was so sharp. But I met this woman one time at the bus stop. We were talking and she was older. I was like in my 20s, early 20s. And she said, you know, sister, your haircut, she said, I know not too many women wearing that now. And I said, yeah, you know, they're not. And she said, but you know, that's not new. And, you know, I looked at her. She said, women was wearing their hair like that in the 60s. She said, I know you see mostly pictures of women with fros, you know, from the 60s. She said, but honey, that was my time. She said, it was a lot of black women with their hair short like yours. So it's like the whole thing of there's nothing new, you know, under the sun or whatever. I found a picture of, I didn't look for it. It popped up of Cicely Tyson. You know, looked like from the 60s with her hair like this. And of course, you remember, for some of you, the model who posed with Isaac Hayes on one of his album covers where he was bald and whatever. So, but nevertheless, I just, you know, find it interesting. It used to, when I was young, it used to really bother me. Like, it's so funny how I was doing that, eating that way or dressing that way or doing these things when I was in my 20s. And here, you people that I know and grew up with and have known most of my life were laughing at me and scoffing and making fun of me and talking about me behind my back. And here now I look, you're doing the exact same thing because you see it on the internet. There was no internet when I was in my 20s. There was no internet. These were things that my spirit called me to do. And there, of course, there were others that were doing it. No one is an island. No one, we're all connected. There may be other groups of people, maybe smaller groups of people doing it or thinking like you know, or maybe what people want to call a tribe, a soul tribe, and all of that type of thing. But, you know, it's just funny to me. Um, and I don't mean in a good way. Okay. There's a person who loves to go live when I go live. I don't know if she's trying to draw energy from me or what. It's she says a lot of things that I say. And it's just kind of disgusting because she tries to pose herself as some holier than thou person, and she's doing the same thing that I see that she people that she speaks against, or the dirty, low down, evil things, and she does the same thing. And it's disturbing. Um, I wonder, like, when I hear people say that about people going live when someone else does to draw their energy, to draw from their energy. It's like you can't do that without getting on the same time they do. I mean, I don't know what that is supposed to mean exactly. Is that supposed to mean that they try to read on you and who you are and your life and delve into your world, or try to extract your energy to be like you and all of that type of thing when you go live, you know? So therefore, that's when they get on to do that. Is that what that means? You know what I'm saying? I got the comments closed. I always invite people to comment. No one ever does. No one ever emails or anything, and that's okay. If you don't want to, it's okay. Because I really don't know who's watching. You know, I don't know. I don't know if my channel is open to the general audience, or if it's been moved over to a particular group of people to watch. You know, sometimes it feels that way, and that's okay too. Anyway, but if a person is a teacher, then they must teach. You know what I'm saying? And if that's how a person chooses to learn, that is how they choose to learn. It's unfortunate because you're not really learning that way. Some people just do it. I mean, it's all the world's a stage. All of this is, unfortunately, you know, for people, truly it's entertainment, for entertainment purposes only. Um, the mocking and of others and being snarky and all of that type of thing. Those are, it's unfortunate for people who live in that energy that they have to do that. And they have that is who they have to be for whatever reason. They can't remove themselves from that. It sounds so silly to say, oh, they're just jealous and they're envious, and but those are very real feelings that people have. But it's always a go-to. People always say that. It's always the go-to. They're jealous. I was watching a video today. This girl, this morning I saw it. This girl had been, she's at her job. She was 19. And she was asked to go home because of her behavior. And she just lost it. You know, she just went crazy. Okay. And she was saying how she needed them to sign her paperwork and so she could get paid. She did not want to leave. And she was just going crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, she finally left. And they were, of course, the police was talking to people on the, because they had called the police on and everything. So the police was talking to people on the inside, and they were talking to her. And she kept saying the same things over and over and over again. Things that I hear students say, you know, the talk of the day, the way people talk today, I ain't even do nothing. I ain't even do nothing. I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing. You she kept saying, she kept saying the same shit over. I ain't even do nothing. I mean, it's so funny. Like in class, it's dudes they'll do something. I mean, you'll see them. They see you looking at them. And they'll do something they know they ain't supposed to do. I mean, and then when you call them out, I ain't even do nothing. I ain't do nothing wrong. I ain't do nothing. And it's like, I was looking right at you, saw me looking at you. But that's what she kept saying over and over and over and over. I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing wrong. I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing. And what else was she saying? Talking about how she wasn't doing nothing. She didn't do nothing wrong. They picking on me. They picking on me. They picking on me. You know, this just no accountability for whatever she did. Of course, we didn't see what she did or what she didn't do. We only heard her manager's account. Because sometimes people will pick with people. That happens. People will pick with people and poke the bear. You know, so I don't know. Like maybe she didn't actually. I don't know. I didn't dare. But the way she was talking and it didn't make any sense. After a while, it's like, okay, you're not making any sense. You keep saying the same thing, the same, like 3 or 4 phrases consist. And I was like, it sounds demonic. It's like that's like this is a spirit that has completely taken over her being, and she doesn't even realize it. She was just a kid. Well, I mean, it happens to people that are older too. She didn't even realize it. But if you listen to it, after a while you can hear it. It reminded me of a scripture in the New Testament. Where was it? One of the disciples or one of the apostles? I think one of the apostles. I can't remember. Who this woman, I think she was a spiritualist actually, was possessed with a spirit, and it was 2 of them, 2 apostles or 2 disciples, I can't remember. And she was behind them saying, she was telling them who they were, but it was constant. And let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see. I don't see it. Okay, wait a minute. I know what to put in. Hold on. Okay, here it is. It's in the book of Acts. It was a fortune-telling slave girl, like I said, a spiritualist, in Philippi. So this is, okay, but this is in Acts, okay. Was possessed by a demon that would repeatedly call out that Paul and his companions were proclaiming the way of salvation. The demon, described as a spirit of the python, was eventually cast out by Paul. This event is recounted in Acts 16 through 18. The girl it's talking about her condition, and she basically was like I said, fortune teller, or what we would call a spiritualist. But they attribute her, constantly calling out to them as being possessed with a demon or an evil spirit. Paul and his companions were traveling and encountered the girl, who repeatedly declared that they were servants of the Most High God, proclaiming a way of salvation. The demon's motivation. The demon was likely speaking the truth, but it was also drawing attention to Paul and his group in a way that was considered unhelpful or even misleading, some Bible commentaries say. Paul's action He recognized the spirit behind her words, commanded the demon to come out of her, and it immediately left. Consequences. While the girl was freed from demonic possession, this action led to Paul and Silas being imprisoned, but ultimately resulted in the salvation of the jailer and his household. Okay, so if you're interested in reading it, it's in Acts 16 through 34. All right, but this is what was done here. Okay, so that's what it reminded me of as I was listening to it, because the girl was just saying, repeating the same shit constantly over and over, to the point where it just sounded like it was painful to the ear. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, she's a spirit on this girl. You know. Anyway, that's what I wanted to. I was just thinking about that. But moving on. Okay. Plus, it's annoying. It was to annoy and to aggravate. Okay. Um, like I hear like people talking about, sometimes readers talking about people who are being targeted. That they want to try to the people that are targeting you want to try to get you in some kind of situation where that you will they want to try to aggravate you and agitate you to to elicit a specific kind of response, probably one of anger. You're annoyed, okay, at a certain point, to make you look bad, which that doesn't make any logical sense, because that is part of being human. I mean, it not even just being human. It just being, hell, you agitate a dog, the dog is going to respond to your agitating it. A bark or bite. Okay. I'm not quite sure where this whole thought comes from about people who are saying that they are spiritualists or chosen, or love and light and high vibrational and all that, where this thought comes from, that anger, becoming angry, or something along those lines is wrong or low vibrational. That No, that's called normal. You understand what I'm saying? That's called normal. I mean, even if you want to use, people call Jesus an ascended master, others call him the son of God, others say that he's God incarnate. So let's use him as an example. Well, there are a few instances of him, being quite agitated and quite annoyed and responding as such. It says, like the Bible says, be angry but sin not. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with being angry. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but the sin not part, well, what does that mean exactly? What's the sin? Okay, let's look up something here real quick. Okay. So what is sin? Wait a minute. Okay, it is an action, thought, or attitude that goes against religious or moral law, particularly against a divine law or the will of God. Okay. It can be a transgression, a violation, or simply a falling short of desired standard. In Christian theology, sin is often seen as rebellion against God and a separation from Him. It would be a transgression, I would imagine, to poke at someone consistently and constantly, especially with the goal in mind to make that person agitated. Your intention is to elicit a response from that person to make them look bad. So you want to elicit a response where they would either, be angry, maybe yell, go off, something like that. Okay, some people will go so far as to try to push a person's buttons to make them hit them, or something along those lines. It wouldn't be the response. I would say that is so much low vibrational as the action that is being taken against someone to put them in that situation. I just feel as though, like, when I hear these things, it's like people are trying to put people in a box. It's still a method of control, you know. So people hear it and they think, okay, well, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to look bad. I don't want nobody to talk about me. Yet the whole world is up in arms and doing all kind of violent shit to one another, you know. Even if the violence is what I just used earlier as an example, someone deciding that they're going to go on live when you do simply to draw and extract energy from you, okay? Or for whatever reason, maybe to keep people from seeing you, or to copy off of you, or to try to take your essence, and so on and so forth. That is an act of, I would say that is a transgression being done to another person. I wouldn't say it is. That's exactly what it is. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't believe in these things that these people say here. If someone pisses you off, you know, you as an adult and as a human being have the right to respond, but you don't want to respond in such a way that is going to get you in any kind of trouble. I mean, you don't want to go to jail and prison and all of that kind of stuff. You absolutely have a right to speak to it, and sometimes if your voice is raised, your voice simply is raised. It's showing anger, and it's saying to that person, back off and leave me be. You understand what I'm saying? Leave me alone. Which you absolutely have a right to do. I mean, so let's go back to this thing with Jesus here. This is not at all what I want to talk about tonight at this point, where, you know, the people in the temple, where, you know, where he got his whip out and overturned those tables. That would be an act of anger. Okay. And people, whether you call them an ascended master or a son of God or God incarnate, you know, you see many examples of anger in the Bible from those who were called by God and those who were prophets and so on and so forth. So it's not realistic to uh, to me, it's still a form of manipulation to try to place someone in some kind of box and tell them what they can and cannot do. Okay, which is absolutely ridiculous. Um, Now, if you respond in such a way where you get out a knife and start cutting on folks and all of that kind of stuff, then that might be an issue. That you understand. But also, you do have a thing of self-defense. If someone is coming at you with a weapon, you know, you have a right to, at least as far as I understand, you know, to defend yourself, to self-preservation. You know what I'm saying? You know, there are laws in place for these types of things. Okay. Um, so I just feel as though that's ridiculous. You know, somebody were to do that, to poke at you consistently and constantly. You know, you out there trying to take care of your business or whatever. Here come a fool. Okay, maybe they're part of the gang ritual, or the targeting, and maybe they got to be initiated by targeting you and doing, or whatever the fuck, however it goes, you know, and they're poking at you in such a way that will bring, knowing it will make you angry, and maybe, you know, you have a right, you may have you may be tired, you know, you may not feel good that day, you may not want to be bothered. Yeah, so many different things, and maybe there may be one day where you wouldn't respond at all, like okay, whatever. You may maybe laugh it off and keep on going. Whereas another day, depending on where you are, depending on what's happening to you chemically as well within your system, your body, depending on what you ate, so on and so forth, you know, you may respond in such a way, and you know, okay, this motherfucker's pissed me off, and you know, I'm going to probably yell at them, telling them to leave me the fuck alone, motherfucker. You know, and for some people, for anyone to point at you and say, oh, I see they're crazy, that's not logical. That's not logical. It makes no sense, because there's not anybody walking this earth who has not responded in such a way where they're yelling at someone, telling them to leave them alone in some way, shape, or form. Okay, it's just not logical. Don't Don't become something that you're not. Even the earth, we are the macro, I mean, we are the micro to the macro. Even the earth responds in anger. Nature responds in anger. It's so funny when people talk about all the terrible things that's going on, and here nature is responding. The earth is responding, maybe tornadoes, hurricanes, so on and so forth, to clean up the earth, to get all this shit up out of here. That's right. So when that energy comes towards you, you want to get them the fuck away from you. You want your energy cleansed of that nasty energy that is coming at you. This is what the earth does as well. Okay, and probably out there in the ethers and so on and so forth as well. It's not. It doesn't make any sense. That does not mean that you are not. I don't know. It's supposed to be a high vibrational and a low vibrational and all of this type of thing where you just are a person. You understand what I'm saying? And we do want to be disciplined and controlled for our benefit, and maybe possibly for the benefit of those around us as well. But anything it's the same thing as anything that's going to put you in some kind of unrealistic box, you know, is I feel like I'm hearing poses a danger is can be a danger in and of itself. For you to hold on to all that, well, I got to be high vibrational. Even though this motherfucker has pissed me off and I really want them to leave me alone. Well, I'm going to ask them nicely, would you leave me alone? Because I'm high vibrational and I can't yell. I can't get angry. When I took my residency, my chaplain residency at Cleveland Clinic, like I said, it's called the Association for Clinical Pastoral Education. You can look it up online. I did the internship in Atlanta as a summer program. I did the residency which is a year program here at Cleveland Clinic. There's a group of 8 of us, I believe. Me, Corliss, Stephen, Algin, I can't remember his name right now, and I can't remember it. So 6, no, and Tyson. So there were 7 of us. So we were chaplains for the hospital, okay, for that year. They do it every year. Okay, we were chaplains, but also we did a lot of group work, which was none but mind stuff, therapy and all that kind of stuff. Where are you mentally? You know what I'm saying? You had to bring up all your issues and your stuff, okay, in the group work. And we would always talk about emotions. And my supervisor was Dennis Kinney. He had been doing this for years. He was from Detroit, but he came here from San Diego. And we would talk about, he changed the department name, which I think is great, from pastoral care at Cleveland Clinic to spiritual care. So it is no longer the pastoral care department. It is called the spiritual care department. Okay, and this was what he taught us for the years, spiritual care as opposed to pastoral care, because pastoral care is a focus on Christianity. He did not want us to focus on one particular religion. He wanted us, which made sense. You have to be able to offer care to people who do not come from your particular background, which would be, so we're opening it to spiritual care because, like I said before, believe it or not, I had even an atheist call for the chaplain, okay? It's amazing who will call for the chaplain when you were in the hospital and your life is on the line. You understand? You don't know what's going to happen. Okay? So anyway, I would love to talk about that whole experience one day. Okay? But we would talk in our large group, how did that make you feel? We would have to talk about a particular experience that we had with a patient. And the main question was, how did that make you feel? What emotions were brought up? So sometimes when he would ask what emotions were brought up, somebody would say something and he would say that's not an emotion. There are only 5 emotions. And what were they? Happy? No. Mad, glad, sad, afraid. We would say afraid, and I can't remember what the 5th one is, but mad is in there. That is an emotion. Okay. Now I looked it up online. Happiness, yeah. Okay. What was it? I don't like the way they have it. Okay, but I'll just read happiness, sadness, fear, anger, disgust. This is what they have, okay? The primary ones, primary, but mad, okay, is going to be in there. Disgust is going to be in there. Anger usually comes out of fear. So if someone is poking at you, then naturally you feel a feeling of, you naturally, hold on please, you naturally feel a feeling of fear. What do they say? That fight or flight response. You're going to do one or the other. If someone is coming at you, okay, in whatever way, shape, or form, you are going to respond to it, okay. And one of the ways in which you respond, okay, may is I mean the initial response is fear. So what will you do? You will go you're going to either run, flight, or you're going to fight. Okay, this is called normal. See, these are things like when I used to teach comparative world religion, okay, an introduction to religious studies. The first class, after we got all the preliminary stuff out of the way, I would explain to my students that what you're going to hear in this class is not going to be anything that you heard in your church, your temple, your mosque, okay, or whatever your place of worship is. What you hear academically from, what you hear about religion from the academic perspective is not going to be the same as from the faith perspective. Be open to the process of what you're here to learn, okay? It's not, in other words, this is not church, this is not Sunday school. It's not based on faith. The teaching is not based on faith. Okay. Okay. What your faith has taught you about your particular religion. It's kind of like people say warning. Okay, warning. I have understand that. Okay. As a matter of fact, a lot of what's going to be taught here may be in direct opposition to that. Okay. Of course, I didn't dive as deep as it when I went to seminary. When I went to seminary, people think seminary is Bible college. By far, it's not. So we were most definitely given that warning to a degree. Some of them classes, they didn't give us no motherfucking warning. Okay, when I went to seminary, your ass is in here. You understand what I'm? There was one professor who he was not there when I was there. I think he left the year before I started. They said that professor, I think was it Introduction to the Church or Old Testament? I think no, Introduction to the Church. I think something like that was the name of the class. He would take the Bible and literally like throw it out the window or throw it in the garbage. Okay, but that it was shock value, of course, but it was to let them know that's if you think you're here for Sunday school in church, it's not the case. The only reason and then I would tell them, believe it, when I taught my students, believe it or not, there are people who actually have gone out and done the research. Okay, they've gone to these lands and you got archaeologists and historians and so on and so forth, and they've done the research. So you may not like what you hear, okay? And I'm not. This is a class that you signed up for. I'm not telling you to, walk away from your place of worship, okay? What it is that you believe, okay? You signed up for the class. You just take it as class if you want to, and just say, well, I don't believe none of that. I don't want to believe none of that. You understand what I'm saying? That's okay, but this is an academic setting, which is totally different. I'm saying that to say here in terms of talking about these emotions, okay, that people have, all right, that human beings have. So you want to be real with yourself, despite, because what happens is it becomes dogmatic, just like any philosophy. It can be turned into something dogmatic. And what does dogmatic mean? Inclined to lay down principles as incontrovertibly true. Okay. In other words, okay, here I'll go use Merriam-Webster's. Characterized by or given the expression of opinions very strongly or positively as if they were facts. And you want to be careful about things that are being taught to you in some kind of dogmatic way, that this is what it is and this is what it has to be. And if you are not doing this, then you are not, high vibrational, just like they would say in the church. And you ain't saved, you don't love the Lord, and or what any other faith may tell you, okay, that you are wrong. And then what does that bring about? Guilt and shame. And so it's just like a cult. You know what I'm saying? Being in a cult. Okay. All right. That is not what I came on here to talk about, but that is what was spoken about. Okay, so I'm going to keep it just like that. What I did come on to talk about, I will do it another day and another time. All right. All right. So make sure that you are using common sense. Using common sense. And be careful of dogmatic uh, belief systems. Things can be called spiritual. A lot of the quote unquote spiritual thoughts and ideas, which I'll go over one specific one eventually. I was doing some research on it today, and I want to do a little bit more research on it. But anyway, it's formed into the same thing, another religion. Okay, another set of systematic belief systems that tell you this is how you have to live, and this is how you have to be, and this is who you have to be. And if you're not, then you're not worthy of whatever the systems not so much goal, but in a way goal is. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else? I talked about the vision that I had. Well, it was a dream about the beings in the dark, the black cloaks that I had kept seeing and kept seeing and kept seeing it. And then finally I saw one take the sun in his hand and crush the sun. Uh, I think I'll do a reading on that. I totally forgot about it after I talked about it on here, but I was surely reminded maybe about 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, where I closed my eyes and I saw another one, but this one was in a brown cloak as opposed to black. And I said, there's that image again. There's that being again, whatever those are. I don't know if they're like watchers or watchers in a sense. I don't know what those beings are. Okay. But I saw another one in brown as opposed to black. But maybe I'll talk about that one day too. All right, maybe I'll eat some more watermelon and just chill. 8:42. All right. You all have favor. Peace.